And the leaks just keep on revealing more and more about what is going to be in Pokemon Sun and Moon. This demo data mine has been insane. Now, interestingly enough, this is coming from part 1 of the data mine. This was just talking about like the things that are in the demo. So effectively, this was like the first wave of mining. That it found things necessary for running the demo, such as the base stats of the Pokemon, a couple of other moves, and some things that just make a lot of sense. Like, oh, the Stakeout and Battle Bond ability. Those have to be in the game or else the demo doesn't really work. But there are some really interesting things. Like, as I showed earlier, all the moves were replaced for Pound except for the ones that are actually used in the game by Pokemon and stuff. So that's why it felt like the demo was so well scrubbed. But then we get to the end and we start to find some interesting things. So 720 moves, because by replacing all the moves with Pound, that's pretty much just going to give us a placeholder for all of the moves that are going to be in Pokemon Sun and Moon. So bringing us to 720 is pretty insane. Also 186 trainer classes. Like, how many are there currently in Pokemon? That's ridiculous. No new types, which is pretty obvious, and then 4 new ribbons. So let's go super deep into this one, because what I want to do was just bring up a list of Pokemon moves, because as of the 6th generation in Pokemon X and Y, we are up to 621 moves, and technically, like, that's including 1,000 arrows and 1,000 waves, which isn't even used in 6th generation, and I believe, like, same with Light of Ruin and some of these other moves. So those are potentially going to be moved into the 7th generation, which means we have over 100 new moves that are going to be introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Like, that is so exciting from a competitive standpoint. Like, I don't know. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, maybe a lot of those are going to be Z moves, potentially, unless they're classified as their own things. But yeah, like, one of my favorite things about every generation is all the new moves that are going to be put into old Pokemon, potentially giving them new strategy, new move sets, or something else to do. Or if we just get, like, a crazy, ridiculous move that can be used to extreme levels. So as we can see right here, there's the generation as to what the moves were introduced in. So in the 6th generation, we actually didn't get a lot. We had 559 at the end of the 5th generation. So 6th generation went from 560 to 620. We only got 60 moves. So we're going to get many more new moves in the 7th generation than we did in the 6th generation. Also, the 5th generation wasn't too many as well, I believe. So it was at 559, and then that was going from 467, so around 90 right there. So still, we're going to get more moves than in the 5th generation. That's why I'm like really excited to see. I want to see all these status moves. Like, those can really change up how the game is played and stuff, and just some really cool things overall. Like, I really like the introduction of Quiver Dance, so maybe we'll get some really ridiculous moves like that. And unfortunately, when it came to the 6th generation, a lot of the new moves were more exploratory, I feel. That was kind of like, oh, I wonder how this could work, and most of them weren't even utilized. Like, Aromatic Mist, yeah, that's a move. Airy Impulse, that wasn't used too often. And then all of, like, the status setting moves. So we had something like Electric Terrain, Misty Terrain, Grassy Terrain. Unfortunately, those moves weren't really used too well, and a lot of these are actually exclusive. So by comparison, we're going to be getting a ton of new, hopefully non-exclusive, universally used moves by comparison, and I want to see more like stat or type changing moves like Phantom Force and Trick or Treat on viable Pokemon. Unfortunately, Rototiller didn't take off, so we have a lot of things like that. And also, we get a sneak peek at some of these moves, and these are like the coolest moves ever. So unfortunately, they go by on screen really fast, so I just have to like click at the right time. So we also have Psychic Terrain. Pokemon on the ground won't be hit by priority moves for 5 turns. It boosts power of Psychic type moves. Well, going from what we've seen out of the Pokemon Sun and Moon demo data mine, we've seen all the Tapu Pokemon, and there's one that is purple. It looks Psychic. So I'm wondering if all the Tapu Pokemon are going to get their own terrain move, and that is going to be a part of their ability, because now we have another terrain introduced. Psychic Terrain, it's interesting, because unless it gets priority itself, or unless you're using the Tapu Pokemon that like sets it immediately, you're still going to be at risk of eating some kind of stat or some kind of priority move. However, if the Tapu Pokemon do have like terrains built in as their ability, Double Battles is going to be insane. Like, everyone's thinking, oh, Tapu Koko's cool, because now Dark Void Smeargle doesn't work because Electric Terrain overwrites that, and then because of that, we don't have to worry about as many things. We can combo it with the Alolan Raichu. What about Psychic Terrain? You plant that down, oh, no Fake Out. You're free to do whatever you want this turn, effectively. And then there's going to be like Terrain Wars and stuff. It's going to be like Weather Wars back in the 4th generation, and now it's getting even crazier into the 7th generation. So it's like terrain with weather, and what about Trick Room? If Trick Room gets moved, like what if Trick Room gets moved to a terrain move? So technically, that could be like really powerful for countering these Pokemon. Like, alright, you get your Electric Terrain or your Psychic Terrain for one turn, but I'm just going to Trick Room, and then all that's going to get overwritten. Actually, I don't even know right now if, like, Trick Room overrides Terrains or if they work at the same time. Like, that's just how underused the Terrain moves were used in the 6th generation. But now it's going to be built into abilities. So that's pretty cool. And maybe hidden abilities. Like, the hidden abilities will go from Tapu Pokemon to other Pokemon that are in 7th generation, or maybe even existing Pokemon. Psychic Terrain is really awesome. And then we have Throat Chop. This is like the most brutal sounding move, but yo, the Pokemon can't use any move that produces sound for 2 turns. Like, the Pokemon Company is on the fringe of introducing the sound typing because there's so many things that work with it. We have the soundproof ability. We also have Substitute, which is going to be like sound type moves ignore Substitute. We also have abilities that interact with it. It's really crazy like that. And now there's sound-based moves. So Throat Chop, okay. Pretty obvious which Pokemon is going to get this, but also other ones like Machamp, just Throat Chop. Oh, you can't pixelate Hyper Voice me anymore. How cute. Or you can't do anything like that. And also sound moves based off of a lot of other things. So, sound moves, Pokemon, because it's actually a surprising amount. There we go. Category, sound moves. So we have Grass Whistle, Hyper Voice, Metal Sound, Noble Roar, even something like Roar. So if your opponent's trying to phase you out with Roar, that's not going to work. Bug Buzz, so that's actually a solid damaging move. So a lot of these random ones like Perish Song, Uproar, Snarl, you know, this is actually going to get interesting kind of usage, and my hope is that it has good base power. That's not something like Smelling Salt, or it's not something like, I don't know, there's just a lot of weird moves that have like 60, 70 base power that aren't strong enough, but have decent effects afterwards. Like Throat Chop, if this is an 80 base power, just fighting type Chop, or even like 85, that'd be really good because you're just going to use it on any Pokemon anyways for like stab and coverage. Also, Brick Break, that's one. That's like, yeah, if Brick Break had 85 base power, it would work out really well because interestingly enough, when you look at like fighting moves, they don't really go anywhere, and also they're off screen, so A plus job by me today. Let me go and add this screen region and just shift it over to the side a little so we can actually see what's going on right here. But yeah, with fighting moves, you know, it's all about the high base power gamble almost. You know, you have high jump kick, you have close combat, and then you have drain punch, and then all these other moves don't really get used too much. I guess low sweep. Low sweep is effectively your, this is going to, or not low sweep, low kick. Low kick is that one, it's like, this averages around 80 base power, decent stab, using it for like super effective coverage and stuff, but the rest of them don't really get as much usage, so I'm hoping Throat Chop, you know, give it an 85, or maybe even buff like the one I just mentioned that lets you go Brick Break. You know, give Brick Break up to 85. That way it's just used against everything instead of like a very specific tech that sometimes works and you're really only using it for super effective hits that you wouldn't have it anyways. It's kind of like Knockoff and Night Slash, you know, now that Knockoff just does so much damage initially, it kind of budges out Night Slash and stuff. So I want to see more fighting coverage that isn't just like, oh, high base power one-shots that have some kind of drawback behind them as well. So maybe Throat Chop does that. And then this is a nice little secondary effect. I'm just going to Throat Chop everything. If it happens to want to use a sound move, extra boost for me. That's pretty awesome right there. And I think I'm just going to like wait for this to go. Aurora Veil halves the power of special and physical attacks for 5 turns. What? Wait. What? What gets this? What gets this? How does... What? That's absolute... That's like, you get Light Screen and Reflect at the same time, and this is a move. So, this is either... This has to be like some kind of mythical Pokemon or crazy legendary Pokemon thing that's just not going to be used by mortal Pokemon, but then Smeargle picks it up. So, depending on what Pokemon gets use of it, it has the power of physical and special moves. Why would you give in the same move? And it has to be very niche, but I'm really excited to see a move like this. Like, that is absolutely crazy. So yeah, Aurora Veil, hopefully that gets knocked off by Brick Break, and Brick Breaks, or maybe, does Brick Break do bonus damage? I don't think it does if you break through the screen, right? If Brick Break misses target or Ghost type Pokemon, yeah, it should do bonus damage, like 1.5 if it breaks through something like that. That way it at least gets more usable tech, and again, off screen because I'm bad at this. So Laser Focus, the move on the turn after the Pokemon uses Laser Focus always results in a critical hit. That's a tough one. It doesn't seem like Laser Focus is going to do damage. Like, I would like that. If Laser Focus would do damage, then it's kind of like something that you'd see out of the TCG. You know, the first turn is build up, and then the second turn is just going to wallop. But if it's a status move, I mean, it's going to go to the side of Lock On and then Mind Reader, which don't really get too much play unless it's into sheer cold and stuff. But Laser Focus, like, what's the point? I could just use 2 moves and do 2 times the damage of my normal move, or I could crit and do 1.5 times the damage. And I don't know if they'd buff crits back, because the crit nerf was really good. Nerfing it down to 1.5, yeah, it removes some of that crazy RNG. If you buff it back up to 2 times damage, that's too much. And even on sniper Pokemon, it's like, okay, I go from 2 times damage to 2.25 times damage. You're just better off using the move twice in a row, unless the opponent is doing some kind of setup. Like, if they're boosting their defenses, the only way that you can ignore their defensive boosts is with a crit. But then that'd be like a very, very specific anti-setup tank. It's not even like an anti-tank Pokemon, because there's a lot of wall breakers out there. This would be like specific, I need to crit to try to take out a Pokemon that's boosting its defenses that is otherwise unkillable. That's actually one of my like favorite things about playing the strategy for boosting defenses, and it's also one of my least favorite things, is that crits destroy anything that's trying to boost your defenses, but at the same time, playing defensive game can get really strong if you're just unkillable and taking, 5% of your health every turn because you have +6 in your defenses or something. But laser focus might be a way around that, but I think that this is going to be one of those status moves that just kind of falls to the side and doesn't really work out too much. And I did want to investigate the trainer classes just a bit as well, because I pulled up a list of trainer classes. I don't know. I didn't even realize there were this many trainer classes, because at first I'm like, 180 trainer classes? Is that even possible? When you look, every generation has introduced a lot of new trainer classes. Like, we have Beauty Biker, so this is like the first generation. That's a solid amount. I haven't gone through and counted this, because I'm not that much of a madman. Like, 1, 2, 3. But then we go into some more, and then all of these are new ones introduced in the new generation, and we still have some of these, we still have Bikers, we still have Black Belts, we still have some of these other ones like Cool Trainers. Well, actually, Cool Trainers have kind of become Ace Trainers. So I guess some of these get like scratched out and then introduced into new ones, but overall the list of existing Pokemon trainers is still pretty big, and maybe they'll just like kind of take some other ones. Like, look at this! Battle Revolution had so many unique trainer types that it just keeps scrolling down, and then we also have like Coliseum, XD, Gale of Darkness, so I'm wondering if there's going to be like a lot more just ambiguousness to what a trainer can be. That's like, if you're a very specific thing, you might encounter this trainer once or twice, but if it's that specific of a person, well, then it's going to count as a trainer type. Or maybe there's just data for all the other existing trainer types, because why not? They existed once, they're part of Pokemon, and you just have the name lying around, so you just put it in the code, because there's a lot of junk code in games just in general, and I think that that is pretty much all there is to it. So I don't really know what to make of this. A lot of trainer classes, probably like a lot of duos and trios and special trainers and stuff that are probably being introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon with like some battle mechanics or things like that. But other than that, I am actually pretty excited for some of the new moves, and over 100 new moves. Like, this channel is all about guides and playing competitive. I get to refresh some of the existing Pokemon. I get to try to come up with new strategies. Like, having 800 Pokemon and over 700 new moves, like, the Pokemon becomes a game of infinite potential, and then you have to think about what Smeargle can combo into. You have to think about what Prankster combos into. You gotta think about like what skill swaps, abilities into new moves and stuff can really work out. And I'm super excited about all of that. But one thing I'm not excited for, that I guess I'll just throw at the end of filler, because I don't know where to put this. People are hacking the game into oblivion. Like, the data mine, alright, that's giving us information. But people are already, like, working on PK hacks and game modification. And they've already gotten it to where they hack the Dugtrio sprite, and they can actually make Dugtrio a wild Pokemon encounter. Crap. This game's gonna be broken before, like, we even get into before the game's even released. Also, it gets a little buggy. Had some strange sprite artifacts and whatnot, but yeah. Dugtrio doesn't have a programmed moveset or anything, so it's just going to sit there and like bug out the game. But the animation, everything's there for Dugtrio to go and do its own thing, and that's what people are capable of when they get a hold of the data of the game and just rip it open like that. But it's got that wonderful, wonderful hair, and I could just watch it flutter all day. So guys, enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.